So when the NBA picks their all-stars, uh, they're going to pick some players that you know and love and some players you don't. They're going to pick some familiar names, and they might sneak in a couple of guys that you're like, huh, I didn't realize that player was this good, or he was having that good of a season. Or, huh, why'd they take two players from that team and no players from that team? Like I said, there's enough players that are deserving that we could make 4 all-star teams right now. But I'm just going to walk you through the 8 reserves I've got for the East and give you a little bit of case for each of them. I have 8, and it turned out to be easier than I thought it would be as I looked at their performance for the first 50, 52 games of the season. Some guys eliminated, by the fact that they didn't play enough games to warrant consideration, or that their team is trash, or that their team, or they're injured, or something's going on and it just doesn't make sense. And so it makes another player more deserving of the nod. It's funny how we say he gets the nod for the all-star game, because is that when you're walking by a dude and you don't want to say hi, you don't say, hey, what's up, fella? Like, you just like nod at him, or like you raise your head, you're like, hi. Do they just do that in Ohio? Do they do that where you're at? You're listening over there in Germany, or if you're over there in Istanbul, John, can you give me a shout out? With some of our listeners, Nathan, tell me, like, what does it mean to give someone the nod? Is that like the like raise the eyebrow and bob your head, and you don't want to do it too much, because then it becomes like a nod, like a shake. I just want to give these guys a nod and say they're deserving. All right, number 1. These aren't in order of importance, but I do want to put Joel Embiid number 1. Joel Embiid is playing like an MVP. He's averaging 34 plus a game. He is dominant. He put it on display for the whole world to watch last week. And so that's an obvious, right? And his 2014 rookie cards, I think if you look for a rookie Joel Embiid in a PSA 9 or a PSA 10, and you get a good deal on it, the reason I would buy now is Joel Embiid is going to make a case for the MVP. Joel Embiid has the Sixers playing like an incredible, well-oiled machine, and they finally have some of those other parts, like DeAnthony Melton, George Niang. That has got to be one of the best names in the NBA. Niang. Like he's got these other players around him now. Even Maxey willing to come off the bench. My guy, Tyrese Maxey. No, he didn't make the all-star team in Hoops and Cards land either. I love him. I think he's got all-star games in his future. I think if he had stayed healthy in December, maybe he would be making the stronger case. But no, going with Joel and going with, you could buy a Joel card now, get a nice one, get you a PSA 10 of something, and sell it in May. Sell it in April when he's awarded the MVP or the runner-up. Sell it in May when the Sixers win the first round series against Milwaukee. Oh, I didn't say that because it's not going to happen, right? But Joel Embiid is number 1. Number 2, numero dos, a player that you hear me talk about quite frequently on this show, who is under-respected in the NBA, undervalued in the hobby, and I'm okay with it because it's made for some good buying opportunities for me, is one Mr. Pascal Siakam. One of those point forwards who, if you look at his game, if you look at his averages any given night, he's a triple-double threat. He's averaging 25 plus a game, more than 6 rebounds, more than 7 assists a game, great percentages. One of the things he's dealing with now is that Toronto is underachieving. They have too many parts. In fact, I was driving with my wife on the way to a volleyball tournament this weekend, and I said, honey, can we talk about the Raptors for a minute? And she's like, yes, dear. I don't know. Maybe it's because talking was just keeping us awake on the drive. I don't know. Like, we had a long drive to Sandusky for this volleyball thing. And I'm like, can we just talk about the Raptors for a moment? Like, they've got all these, they got Gary, they got Scotty, they got Fred, they got Precious. And she's like, Precious? And I'm like, yeah, my Precious. Now they got all these good pieces parts, and OG and Pascal Siakam. Like, why aren't they playing like they did 12 months ago when they had the second best record in the East in the second half of the season? Why can't Toronto do that again? And the answer is, I have no idea. I know they've got chemistry issues, right? All that to say, whatever issues they got, whatever place they're in the standings, I don't care if they don't qualify. Siakam's an all-star, period. He's doing it all. He's doing whatever the team needs. He's still a defensive top stopper, and his cards are relatively affordable from 2016. So Pascal Siakam, number 3. And it gives me no sense of fulfillment or pride or I told you so. It's just a surprise that this guy returned to the level he's played at off and on for the last 4 years to be an all-star again. Mr. Julius Randle, another dude who's like point forward, but with more rebounds and more points. And the Knicks are good. Yes, I said it out loud. The Knicks are good. And so they might have more than one all-star. You might just have to wait and see. But Julius Randle is another dude from that 2014 rookie class. Another former Laker who's coming back to show you who he is and what he can do and make the Lakers go, why do we give up on all these guys that are like all-stars now or could be like Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle? Like how many guys? Anyway, Julius Randle, Knicks, playoff run. You know, I would say buy him now if you like him. There aren't a lot of good Julius Randle rookie cards out there, but the Knicks are that's a huge market. And yeah, if the Knicks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, gosh, I wouldn't put it past him. Stay healthy, peoples. That's number 3, Julius Randle. Number 4, another Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. Jaylen Brown. Yes, sir. 27 plus a game. Super durable. Can take over a game at will, like you did in overtime against the Lakers the other day. I don't feel like I need to explain it, but I do think all I'm going to say to you about Jaylen Brown's cards is that some of them are in my watch list on eBay. I'm about ready to snipe a PSA 10 optic hollow of Jaylen Brown. That's what I'm saying. Like he's a player that I like, but he's also the kind of guy that the Celtics are the best team right now in the East. They're hungry. They want to win a championship. They were spurned and scorned last season by Golden State. I think if the Celtics win the championship this year, Davey, Erica, it'll be because of Jaylen Brown. I get that Tatum can go get you 50 or 60. That's fine. But you have another guy who can do it too. Jaylen Brown's awesome. He's the 4th all-star reserve, not in order of importance, but just I'm counting him down. Number 5, Trae Young. Like I can't keep a guy off the all-star team for having 30 points and 9.9 assists a game and a steal and great percentages. I can't do it. You can look all day and say the Hawks are like the Raptors of the South. They've got all that talent. Look at the numbers that he and DeJounte are putting up. They just don't win basketball games. And I'm tired of hearing that John Collins is on the trade block again. Yeah, I don't want John Collins. You know, I don't know what they're doing with Onyeka Okongwu. I don't know how they feel about DeAndre Hunter. Really? So I don't know. Atlanta's messed up, man. But Trae Young's an all-star, period. 30 points, 10 assists. That gets me every time. Number 6, in a very similar precarious situation, although the team is climbing, like they're inching their way up as the big 3, as it were, in the Windy City are starting to put it together. They're starting to make sense of each other. They're starting to be healthy at the same time. Yeah, Vucevic is playing really well. And Zach LaVine has upped his game and is demanding some more respect. And he's in the conversation, but I had to give DeMar DeRozan an all-star spot. I just had to. And there's one of those guys who has the boring, weird-looking Topps rookie card from 2009 that if you find one, raw and centered, and that's like finding a 4-leaf clover. They're so hard to find. And even if you do, like he just doesn't have that global appeal or that large market outside of Chicago. Maybe San Antonio for you sentimental Spurs fans. I would just say DeMar's an all-star. I don't need to explain it. If I do, watch some games. DeMar's awesome. He's like the king of the mid-range shots. Number 7. Oh yeah. I had to go with at least one Miami Heat player, and Jimmy Butler, let's say a couple things about good old James. He's missed more than a third of his team's games. His stats are very similar to 3 or 4 other guys here in the East who didn't make my all-star list, who are like close but no cigar: Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Bojan Bogdanovic, DeJounte Murray, There's a bunch of guys that are like right there with Jimmy Butler. And so I went with the front court option. I went with Bam Adebayo. These 20 and 10 guys who are centers, who are switchable on defense, and who really, I should do a card all-stars thing because, people don't usually buy centers. So why not pick some young up and coming guard scorer dude like Tyrese Halliburton? No, I'm just saying Bam deserves an all-star spot. All right. A center who plays defense and gets me 11 boards. I can't complain. And he's an Iron Man. He's played most of his team's games. So Bam, you're in. Go have a party. And then number 8, the final all-star spot. And I'm going to give 2 alternates, but because that's like bonus round, right? Like the final all-star spot in the East. This was not easy because I had other guards who were deserving. I had James Harden, but he's only played in 33 of his team's 50 plus games. Bro, Harden's awesome. I can't put him in with that few games. I can't put LaMelo in there, right? But I looked carefully at Tyrese Halliburton, and I saw a player who hasn't played in a few weeks. And when he did, he was starting to wind down after getting all that love. Oh yeah, Tyrese is an all-star. Tyrese is an all-star. Yeah, and then December happened, and then January happened, and February. And where is he? All I know is the Pacers aren't contending, and his numbers, though his assists are good, by the way, he's off the charts good for a point guard at his age with a team he hasn't even been on the roster for a year in Indiana. Like, definitely worthy of all-star consideration. But again, I had to pick a guy, right? I had to look my man Darius Garland in the face and say, Darius, I know you're averaging 22 plus or 21.8 a game. I know you've played 44 games. That's more than a bunch of these guys I'm mentioning. I know your percentages. I know when Donovan Mitchell's out, Garland fills in and scores 40, 50, 51. We saw it in person. Like, I get it. Darius is deserving. In fact, he's an alternate. But what I had to do is say, look at the guy's all-around game. Look at the guy's durability. Look at what he's added to his team. If you've got a few equals, then what player is basically getting better as the season progresses and helping his team get better as the season progresses? And you're seeing a major shift in the Eastern Conference, probably because of this. It's Jalen Brunson. It is Jalen Brunson. And so he gets my final spot. The alternates, if I had them, man, it was hard not to put Drew Holiday in that spot because, defense is a thing. And Drew's playing great otherwise. And without Chris Middleton, it's not just Giannis that's picking stuff up. It's Drew Holiday that's doing a lot for that team. So I love him, love Zach LaVine. DeJounte, you're my guy. Darius Garland is like the guy that I collect and invest in more than any player in the NBA. But I had to just be real and say it's Jalen Brunson, people. He's proving it. He's clutch, and he can take over a game, but he's also been extremely durable and a great leader for the Knicks. So the Knicks get 2 all-stars. Hope you like it. They're in New York City, up in that New York area. Those are the Eastern Conference all-stars. And what I would say is, as you listen to that list, or if you think about the Eastern Conference list and you want to buy a player's card, ask yourself this question. Number 1, is that player heading for the playoffs? Okay. Yes or no? Number 2, do I just want to have a card of that player for a long, long time? Okay. If your answer to the playoffs is no, then you don't need to buy now. You don't. You can make a list and say, all right, I really like LaMelo. I really like Tyrese Halliburton. I really like this player who's not going to be in the playoffs. Sadiq Bey, whoever your guy is, right? And make a list and say, all right, I'm going to look at that list in August and buy on Discount Row. I'm going to buy the cheapos. But if you said yes to the playoff thing, and you said yes to, I'd like to hold that guy's cards for a while, and you're thinking Jaylen Brown, and you're thinking Jalen Brunson, oh, I'm rattling off the Jalen's like somebody forgot KD. Like, there are guys that are going to have upside now and again in the playoffs and beyond that in their careers. So I like those types of players. I like Jaylen Brown. I like Julius Randle a little better than Siakam. And I do love me some Joel Embiid. Now, I'm looking at Embiid's I'm looking at those players in my watch list. Have I bought any yet? Well, I've bought and graded some Brunsons and Siakams already. What are you going to do? My Western Conference. Let me rattle through these quickly because I want to wrap up this episode. I love you all, but I need to get to another episode and then recording for a podcast, another one on our Basketball Forever podcast network tomorrow early in the morning, an Australia Deep 2 podcast. So that should be fun. But the Western Conference, let me go through those 8. Ja Morant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Damian Lillard, Domantas Sabonis, Lauri Markkanen, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, and Paul George. Man, I just did. There was no suspense there. I just rattled them off. How did I get there? Ja Morant, that's obvious. That is so obvious. I don't know what else to tell you. He is one of those players that for me says, yes, he's going to have fun on All-Star Game weekend. People will tune in just to see Ja Morant that weekend. And for the rest of the season, Memphis will be a team to watch, and they are super fun. So Ja is the man. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a no-brainer. One of those guys that's on a bad team. Fine. We all know they've tanked. They've got Chet. But here's SGA going off for 30 plus, 5 or 6 assists, 5 or 6 rebounds. He's super exciting to watch. Absolutely unguardable, and an all-star season for him. Damian Lillard. I mean, yeah, Damian Lillard averaging over 30 points a game. If I can read my own writing there. Can you read your own writing? Have you tried to read your own writing lately? Yeah, Damian Lillard, definitely an all-star. Domantas Sabonis. Now, there's the thing. When I was going through the whole Western Conference, I looked at every team, scrutinized what they've been doing, how their players have performed, and then look at what the outcome is. Sacramento, like 3rd or 4th in the conference. Are you kidding me? And it's 52 games in. Yeah, Sabonis is a triple-double threat all the time. And I just got to say, there aren't a lot of awesome big men in the West. I wasn't going, well, DeAndre Ayton, or like, no, there's not a lot of big dudes. Alperen Sengun's playing well, but he's no all-star. So Sabonis is really a benefit of where his team is at, and he's making everybody better. They're running the offense through the guy. Another player, similar boat, big man who's having a career year, and I think it's an indicator. It's indicative of what he could do in the future and why I would buy Lauri Markkanen cards. Buy Lauri Markkanen cards. He's one of those dudes I would buy when I can find them cheap and raw and they look great. Okay. Be careful, be thoughtful. Don't go saying, well, Hoops and Cards said go buy Lauri Markkanen. It's never that simple, people. It isn't. You need to buy as an educated, smart buyer would. You need to be careful as you evaluate the condition of the card. You don't just go buy pieces of cardboard with Lauri Markkanen's face on them. Like, buy something sharp looking, buy something that's on sale, buy a good deal that maybe you've got a plan for how it's going to grow in value. But Lauri Markkanen, I thought, man, he's having a great November. He's having a great December. Like he's sustaining it. And I think it's just, how he got to the Jazz and they said, hey, play like you did over there in Eurobasket. Like play like, do that Superman stuff you did over there. And he's doing that and will continue to do it. It'll be fun to see what Utah does in the trade with the trade deadline coming up. So, but yeah, Lauri Markkanen. Another one, De'Aaron Fox, 24 points a game. The team is top 3 or 4 in the West. I had a hard time saying no to De'Aaron Fox, especially when I've got these other players like Devin Booker's only played 29 games. Yo, Book, I can't make you an all-star. Like you don't get to miss 20 games in the first half of the season and be like, okay, I'm going to, like, he's not an all-star. He's all-star caliber. Klay Thompson, all-star caliber, but you missed a bunch of games, man. Anthony Davis has only played 32 games, people. That's a lot for Anthony Davis. That's 3 times more than he's ever played. Like, yeah, okay, you're not an all-star. You missed 20 games already. CJ McCollum, though, has played really well. Desmond Bane, same deal, man. You missed too many games. Kawhi Leonard missed too many games. There are some guys that have played a lot of games, and I'd say you're just not ready for prime time yet. You're just not an all-star yet, Keldon. I love you, Keldon. Anthony, you're great. You're doing it. Jaron, whether your blocks are inflated at home or not, I don't care. You're a great player. You're doing it. But I had to go with Anthony. The last two I'm naming are Anthony Edwards and Paul George. When I looked at Anthony Edwards and what he's done for, I want to say 51 games. Well, if I can read my writing, Anthony Edwards is averaging 24.7 points a game for the whole season, shooting well from the field. He is a light at the end of the tunnel. He's a rock in a hard place. He's in Minnesota, man, and yet he's still doing great things. They have a chance to make a playoff run. But either way, we had this conversation on the Discord. By the way, if you want to get in on basketball card conversations with us, just message me. Say Gary@hoopsandcards.com, @hoopsandcards. Wait a minute, that's my email. Gary@hoopsandcards.com is my email. My Instagram is @hoopsandcards, and say, yeah, I'd love to get in on the basketball card discussions where we talk about cards we're buying, new releases, ideas on prospects. Hey, what do you guys think of Anthony Edwards? Do you think he's really, yeah, he's a top 5 talent. He's only 21 years old, and look at what he's doing. So yeah, I think Anthony Edwards makes the all-star team. And then last, but certainly not least, is Paul George. Paul Georgi. Oh man, he's just having a Paul George kind of season. Clippers are contending. I had to put a Clipper in there. Boom. Slam. By the way, that 2010 Donruss Paul George, it's shaping up that he's one of the least appreciated superstars in our league overall, and he's on his way to the Hall of Fame, you guys. Kawhi Leonard healthy, for sure. The Clippers have a chance to make a deeper playoff run than they have in the past 2 years. But Paul George cards, Paul George rookies are hard to come by. I'm doing my research. I would just say the jury is still out on whether or not I would buy a Paul George rookie card, a PSA 10 at a good deal. I probably would. Let me just say I'm in the middle of researching that as a possibility for myself. And then I think you need to know the number one alternate, the guy that I had a hard time leaving off, and I could have put him